We go live 3 to 4 times a week,
Yeah.
and yeah, go for about 45 minutes. Have a blast at it.
Um, so I was recording, I probably did 50 or so episodes, recording, editing, did all the things. And as I got more comfortable just on the platform, got all the kind of my that's kind of where I wanted to be. Was I got more comfortable with the live side. So I try to do, I have two time slots. You noticed that 2:30. So we kind of, for the SEO value of the marketer in me, is like that 3 o'clock hour of being able to capture folks that are coming and going around that time. So there's a lot of value in that time. And then 7 o'clock, kind of that post dinner um, time slot as well. So I kind of followed like a TV model for mine as well. You have a particular time that you do yours?
Yeah, so we go early in the morning.
I know.
We go live on LinkedIn and YouTube.
Yep.
And so we go at 8 my time, so it'd be 10 Eastern.
Yeah.
And then on Mondays we go in the afternoon, about the same time.
You, so right now we're live up on YouTube, Twitter or X, and then I don't. Why do we keep saying that? Like, is it? We should just say X. I keep
Where
saying Twitter,
there
X.
will be a time when you say Twitter and they'll know how old you are.
Yeah, that's right. I'm dating myself here, folks. Um, so YouTube X, and then we're Facebook Live as well. I told someone the other day I thought I was too rough around the edges for LinkedIn, and they were like, "You're crazy. Just put it on
Nah,
there. Stop. Just
nah.
treat it like any other platform." I was like, it's LinkedIn. It's supposed to be professional." And so yeah, that was kind of my take. Um, Dude, let me tell everybody real quick. Anthony Franco, serial entrepreneur who has launched 7 businesses and successfully exited 6, proving that resilience and strategy are keys to lasting success. Now he's on a mission to help other founders navigate the challenges of entrepreneurship, share his insights on building, scaling, and second chances. Dude, I'm really excited to just get to know you. But here's the way I like to tee it up: is what's a day in your life look like?
Oh, it depends on the day. Uh, geez. So there's a routine. Usually I'm up about 4:30,
Yeah.
and my golden hour is like between 5 and 6,
Yeah.
where I hunker down in front of my computer with a cup of coffee and just like hammer out whatever the thing is supposed to be. Then I try to get a little workout in. I just work out, no gym, just here at the house. And about 7 o'clock, I help my wife with the girls and get them out of the house. Um, so that routine is about the same. And then every day after that is like every day after 8 o'clock, it's totally different.
Do you, on your early morning, is that kind of your time to get stuff done? Is that you? That's your time, and then the rest of the time you're kind of just letting whoever flow into your day that needs to.
Yeah, that kind of is right. Yes.
Do you? How old are your kids?
7 and 9.
Yeah.
If you ask a 9-year old, she's 10 already. She counts because she's over 9.5, so she'll say she's 10.
Um, my daughter turns 13. I've always like I turned 50 this year, so I'm in my head, or last year. So in my head, I'm already 51 because it turned a calendar year. So I've always just kind of went ahead. And my daughter is like she doesn't fall into that. I was told someone the other day. I'm like, I figured she might be excited to be a teenager, and so I was like, yeah, she's 13, and she goes, I am 12. I won't be 13. I won't be 13. And I
No
think
rush.
Anthony, I'll tell you where that comes from. She plays she plays softball, and I had to fill out the paperwork. Um, and I put her date wrong on her paperwork, so they were like going to kick her off the team, and they're like, "Yeah, she's aged out of this." I'm like, "How can she be? There's no way. Is there some kind of weird cutoff?" And I had just wrote the date down wrong, so the coach finally like calls me and he goes, "Hey, is your wife around?" I was like, "Yeah, she's here." He goes, "Put me on speakerphone."
Let me ask
He's
your
like,
wife what her birthday
"What's
is.
your daughter's birthday?" And he tells it. He goes, and she goes, "It's 2012." And she goes, "2012." She goes, "Oh." He goes, "Okay, cool. Jeff put down 2011. Thank you. Have a good day." And I was like, "What's?" what's going on? And my daughter come in and she was like, you. So yeah, so that's cool, man. That's a great. I mean, there's never a bad age, I don't think, for kids because I'm 12 and 15 is where mine are, man. But that's a really good balance for you to be able to get them off. Now, your evenings, is your day set up to where you get to get them off the bus, or does that get complicated?
No, so my wife usually hands them throughout the day, and then we do the family dinner thing about 5:30, and and then they're very active. So one has dance, the other one has soccer, and usually it's my wife that's toting them around while I'm working.
Yeah. And what does that look like for you, Anthony? I know you said your days kind of evolve and it depends, but like yesterday, what was that? Let's see, today is Tuesday. What was your Monday like as far as your day to day?
Yeah, so I uh gosh, um in the morning, so I have a couple of things that I'm doing. So I'm a consultant. I help entrepreneurs scale and exit.
Yeah,
And then I run a podcast. So yesterday we did a podcast episode about 2 o'clock in the morning. I worked on somebody's branding, and then in the afternoon around the podcast, I was helping one of my clients developing a go-to-market strategy by building out a community and messaging, and then we're going to be rebuilding his website. So that's
where are your clients at? Like when we talk about that fella, is he or she are they? First off, I think are they coming in with significant teams? Are these solopreneur ventures? Does it vary? What is that like? Like who's your ideal client to give everybody kind of a picture of?
Well, there's essentially two. So I help companies launch and I help companies exit.
Yeah,
And when it's launch, I don't mean like launching from 0 to 1. It's usually launching into a market, launching into a new channel, launching a new product. So it's that disruptive
established.
creative energy, right, in the early
Yeah,
stages, and then I help them essentially launch their exit. So if they're looking to go to market, right, they're looking to sell their business or exit it as a founder. I work on in that process as well.
so we're talking folks that have found some level of success in business,
Yeah.
and they're ready to scale into their next thing, and then or either potentially exit out of the game
Yeah.
altogether. Dude, that
Very
is really,
niche.
yeah, no, and it's really cool. So there's a backstory that got you into that, and through your journeys and through your experience, it sounds like. Um, tell us kindly, like, and I had a question here. Um, is where you've launched seven and exited six. So you got one, you're still sitting on your one business, but like get into that valuable lesson that you've learned throughout those processes that you kind of help pass along to your folks. But before you start there, kind of qualify your how you got into this and what makes you such a value to the clients that you work with now.
Well, it, it wasn't some master plan. I just stick to what I'm good at.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the launch. Like I really enjoyed the start, the chaos, the creative energy that's required to build and to launch either a product, a business, service, channel, whatever. That is just something that I'm particularly good at. And then I love the exit part of a business. The middle part is the part that sucks for me. Like the getting things operationally efficient and developing leaders of leaders and managers and org structures and having meetings about, you know, the next company all staff meet, like I'm out. Like it just like I don't want to have anything to do with that. So I have launched my own companies and exited them. And right now I don't really have a big thing that I'm working on. So I'm just helping other folks and kind of poking my nose in where I can be helpful, and getting out of the way when I'm not.
That's but still though, man, when you look at those, that gets overlooked. Yeah, the exit part gets overlooked.
Yeah.
And even in the business coaching that I do, smaller scale, but still $1 million businesses that where it may be a plumbing company where the fella's just going, he's going to sell off his truck and he's going to shut down. And I'm like, whoa, there's, you got value here.
Yes.
And then that gets overlooked. What is your background, Anthony, as far as, um, through college and thing, was that entrepreneurial mindset always kind of with you, or did you discover this, or what was kind of what was your path into entrepreneurship to begin with?
I've always been entrepreneurial without knowing that that could be a path. Um, when I was a kid, to earn money for the arcade, I used to spray paint curbs, spray paint street numbers on curbs for folks for $5 a piece.
Yeah.
And doing that, a couple days a week got me enough money to keep me in the arcade all weekend. So that I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, no, I need to hustle some cash, right?
Cash.
And so I just kind of always had that, and most of my businesses started as side hustles, trying to figure out a way of, I had my 9 to 5, whatever that 9 to 5 was, and I'm like, all right, I need to keep busy in the evenings, and I don't have hobbies. I don't golf, I don't hunt, I don't.
Yeah.
So my hobby is business. So I just would start something new, and those, thankfully, it kind of grew into something that could self sustain and grow. So yeah, so there was no master plan. It was just kind of meandered my way into it.
Go to college.
Um, I I didn't go to college, although I, just to mock it, I purchased a master's degree for $450. So I have a degree, but I didn't earn it. I didn't earn it legit.
That's different. How did you go about that? Was it a
I
secret?
just found somebody online that would sell me a degree, and it's like, just I did it as a lark, just to kind of poke fun at the whole process.
That is so um absolutely. I had a friend that did. He's passed away now. I had a friend that did something similar. He was one of the guys. I told this story on him the other day. Rest him. But back in the day, remember cameras? We used to send film off to get developed, and then we had 1 hour. I'm really dating myself now. Uh, but then when as it progressed, you could send your film off, and you could, like, I could take a picture of Anthony and put him on the cover of a fake
Yeah,
magazine, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah, right. You remember that he had two in his hallway. He was someone took a picture of him riding a bike, and they put there like next best thing or whatever. And so when people get to his house, they're like, "Hey, what's up with this?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm a triathlete." And he totally BS'd his way, Anthony. Totally BS'd his way for years on that. After he passed away, like, we found out, like, just different things where he had fudged.
He's just making it up.
Just making crap up. Just
That's
making crap
awesome.
up. Making crap up the entire time. So there's a story there, like, no college, just understood hustling money, and what was that first company that you decided that you were going to start?
Yeah, I mean, my first like legit side hustle. So I my one of my very first like professional jobs was for a lithographer. A big printer for ad agencies, and I would prepare artwork for press, and they sent me to learn the Adobe Creative Suite and Quick Express.
Yeah.
And I always recommend, you need to have a skill that'll last you a lifetime. I still use those skills today. And so once I went through that course, I started doing freelance graphic design and print ready files and jobs. And my biggest customer then was a silk screener that did T-shirts for Mexican radio stations in LA. So I did all the artwork and color separation and printed the film for Mexican radio stations to promote their business.
What year are you talking about for so folks understand the technology?
90, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so your internet is chugging along. It's still some folks are probably on dial up, but you we have access
I was
to
on dial-up.
lands. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
yeah, we started getting so just I like to tell especially when I get into dating myself, I like to explain technology of sometimes when Anthony says, yeah, well I had this skill and I used Adobe and said the other, like that was not what you have now, people. This was the that back then it was really cool, but it was you would probably compare it close to an etch and sketch now because of the way that it performed and moved, and then just the connection in general. And God forbid you not have an independent line and somebody pick up to make a call and interrupt your work while you're trying to.
Yes, that
Yeah,
absolutely happened. You're downloading a file from an email, and your wife picks up the phone, and it's like, oh, I got to start that whole
I
thing
gotta
over again.
start. I gotta
It was
start
it
this.
was 700K that I was downloading, and it was taking an hour. Yeah,
Um, and that so that the struggles of us early internet pioneers,
sure.
um, back then. Um, That's really cool, dude. I mean, and like you said, it's like so far everything you've done has been very niche, and it's
Yeah.
been that sounds like you are. I've interviewed, like I was telling you earlier, I've interviewed a lot of folks. I'm a people guy, so I wherever I'm at, I'm going to introduce myself. Like, hey, what do you do? Let's talk. I've never met anyone who was a supplier to Mexican radio.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that's all right. So you go through that company, exit it,
yeah.
or is
So
that one
that
or
one I
is, or
didn't
is that one
actually
still
sell.
going?
That was just I just got busy. The if you're looking for kind of more of a timeline, when I was doing that, I went from the graphic design, the lithography studio, and then I went to work for us for a startup as the creative director, and help them grow. And then I went from there to no, I take that back. I went from the lithographer to Warner Brothers, and I did some work in feature post production at Warner Brothers for a year. And then from there, I went to become a creative director for a startup. And then my first true like legit company that I started was a consulting firm out of that, where me and a couple of other friends started a consulting practice where we helped .com companies build technology to launch into the market.
Yeah.
And that one we exited. That was my
Um,
first exit.
did you like working for? Did you like working for W2? Did you like that part of your process, or did you feel like your clothes were fitting tight and you needed to get the heck out of there because you couldn't breathe?
You mean at Warner Brothers?
Yeah.
Um, it was interesting. So, everybody wants to be in the movies, right? And but you just don't realize that when you're there, you're not really, you don't really get to be creative. The
Yeah.
creativity comes from the director and the producer. Appropriately so. I had no business being creative on a feature movie, but you know, essentially, I was a project manager for post production,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot. But it wasn't Warner Brothers is contract work. It's movie by movie, project by project, and there's no way to establish security
Yeah.
doing that. You can make really good money and then not work for 3 years. So I wanted something a little more stable, so I moved over to the startup, which actually was more stable than working at Warner Brothers.
uh, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that comes with that, and you're one that talks about. I've had a couple other people talk about just the movie industry and how difficult it is sometimes just to keep work and to stay
Yeah.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very political. If you piss your boss off, you might be out of a career
Yeah.
like overnight. So it's you can't argue it though. It's a machine, and they do some incredible work. When I was there, it was the time of ER and Seinfeld. We're both filming out of the Warner Brothers lot.
Yeah, so that's all right. So it helps me with my timeline in my head. I'm just knowing kind of where you are. Yeah. All right. So you exited this company, the one that you branched off of Warner Brothers. You guys started your next business, and then you go on to number three.
Yeah, so kind of in rapid succession here, not to bore everybody, but um, uh, after I sold my consulting firm. We were hired as a team. We were kind of hired, so we were hired as a team to run technology for this incubator of startups. um, and then we all moved to then me and another person moved to another firm that we were all hired away from to run their technology, and started a side hustle, and started working on a product that was for marketing. It was a mass marketing product, and we sold that company. I sold that company pre-revenue. It was a really great product. Didn't really have a lot of traction in the market yet, but we were getting a lot of like attention for what we were doing. And so a public company bought us, and then uh, started. Um, uh, at that time, the company that acquired us moved us from LA to Colorado. That's how I wound up in Colorado.
It's right there. Yeah.
And didn't have good internet access actually in the town that I moved to. So me and the same group of guys decided to create an internet service provider so we get high speed internet, and started a company called Skybeam, and climbed an AM tower 400 feet up, put Wi-Fi antennas on the tower, and started broadcasting broadband to the homes in Loveland, Colorado. And then we sold that company. And
That's
then
figuring. Listen, Anthony, that's figuring out something that most folks don't like. Like I'm sitting here going, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Because I was in times where I didn't have good. I'm like, you're like, hey, no, call the guy. We get the tower, get the ladder. We're going. We're fixing this. We got
yeah,
to have internet.
actually, I wish I could take credit for that, but that was my partner's idea to like, hey, we're gonna go climb that. He pointed, we're gonna go climb that tower. Meanwhile, I'm petrified of heights, like literally petrified of heights. And we're the first time I climbed that tower. He gives me the gear, like he brought all the gear and everything. We're climbing up the tower. I am 15 feet up of a 400-foot tower, and I'm climbing, and I'm 20 now. I'm 20 now. I'm 30, and I just put my arm around. And I'm like, I look up and I go, Rob, I'm not going any further. I can't do this. And he said, look down, and I look down. He's like, if you fall now, you're dead anyway. So just might as well keep going. And I was like, and for some reason it made sense. Climbed up the tower all the way, installed the antennas, and yeah, I'm not scared of heights anymore. It's kind of, you conquered the fear, and you get
Yeah,
over it. But yeah, that was a fun adventure.
that's a really cool mark on your resume of how you brought high speed internet, how you brought Wi-Fi to your community to support your endeavors. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly right. And then it's selling it and installing it, and then just building a little ecosystem of customers in Loveland. And I managed the exit process of that to a roll up. Um, and um, then that marketing company, that marketing software company, that marketing company software company. Sorry, I'm messing up the words.
You're
The
good.
one that did marketing automation that sold to a public company. We sold after Skybeam. And I worked for that company for a while as, I don't know, VP of something. They gave me some weird title. Um, and then started doing consulting on the side. And consulting on the side turned into I got busy and I hired somebody, and I we got busy and I hired somebody else, and gosh, 6 years later, we're 150 folks and selling to a large advertising conglomerate. And that was my biggest exit. And I've had a couple like smaller ones along the way, but that's kind of the path into getting
Yeah.
bigger and bigger.
Any setbacks along the way?
Any setbacks?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anything significant that was that one that you're like, ah, you didn't have to bring this up, Jeff.
so there was, there's I don't really focus on this. The setbacks is part of it. Like every day, there's a setback. There's something that doesn't meet your expectation every
Yeah.
single day. As an entrepreneur, there's something that you failed at. Like if not, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So any bigs, I can think of client losses that I could have done better. Um,
Did
Markets
you have
that
an
I should have never
Amazon?
entered
Did you have
into, but
did you have an Amazon business that didn't perform as well as you'd like?
yeah, definitely. So Amazon for sure. Amazon. So, um, there is one business that I started. It's that seventh business I've exited yet that really struck. So we were gaining traction over and over and over again, and growing year over year. And then Amazon glitched on their end, and our sales tanked. Like
Mm,
that's a setback that had nothing to do with me, like completely out of my control.
yeah.
um Nothing even to learn from that other than Amazon
So like
owned my business, I didn't.
algorithm issue or platforming or what is that? What does that look like?
So it was a essentially um so Amazon, you most people don't know this, but when you run an Amazon business, it's run on Excel spreadsheets. You're literally uploading your product catalog in Excel files, and one of those uploads um corrupted the product database on Amazon side and tanked sales. It's effectively killed our organic reach, all of it.
Yeah.
And took 6-8 months to turn it around and fix the issue, to figure out what was going on, and get Amazon to pay attention to us. Yeah, it was
Really?
brutal.
Yeah, because it's hard to talk your way into that conversation with all those smart people in one room, probably.
What do you mean?
Just like you trying to explain to Amazon, like, "Hey, here's the problem. Here's what's going on," and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, that can't be it. There's no way your product data crashed our system."
Yeah, it took me 4 months to figure out it wasn't my problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like here you are, is like, and they're going, "Oh no, we're perfect over here. This is that.
Exactly,
We're
exactly right. And then when I figured out the problem, it took another 4 months to get Amazon to
acknowledge it."
not even acknowledge it, for me to fix it using hackish, like gray hat methods, to try to get Amazon's database to update correctly. It was just brutal. Yeah.
That's a really great takeaway, because I run into that in my work of folks that are e-commercing and heavily into those platforms, and there's always, did you have a backup plan is what I was kind of curious. Is you're heavily into Amazon, but did you have your
No.
own e-commerce site?
No. So Amazon was 95% of the business.
Yeah,
Um,
see.
it just kind of took over that way, because it starts growing. You're going to
Yeah,
feed the beast, right? You're going to
yeah.
continue to grow with it. You know, at that time when we had the problem, we were talking to big box retailers, but nothing had materialized yet. So, it's that business is still alive. It's still a thing, but it's not anywhere near as big as I would hope it was going to be.
Did you adjust and have alternate means for commerce, or are you still heavily invested in Amazon?
Yeah, still heavily invested in Amazon.
I
Yeah.
got you. So once the issue was resolved, you went back all in, basically.
Well, I would say, so actually that we how do I say this? This is a great question. It's a I would say I have deprioritized that business in my life
I got you.
because I can't go all in on something that I don't fully control.
Yeah, I understand. That's, and I think we run into that. No is as good as they are, and like you said, I remember one time switching. We were switching to fiber. And a similar example, like I was moving a dealership and there were some outage issues, so we moved into fiber. And the phone company, like we had meetings with some of their heavy hitters, and the phone company was like, "Hey, because we were having outages, we're like, hey," and they're like, "Fiber fixes it." Like, listen, it's federal law that fiber can only be down. It has to be fixed. Like it's a priority. This, that, and the other. And like I remember we just being out 2 days, like, yeah, that doesn't hold true when crap hits the fan. Everybody gets the rest back on their terms of service, and
Yep.
oh yeah, no, that's not. They start finger pointing, so I get what you're saying with that. So whether you go to the your own Shopify or your own platform or whatever, folks, you're just to point that out. And what I'm kind of what Anthony's saying is a backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan sometimes is still going to potentially lead you down that path of where you're frustrated, especially if you're heavily into just online sales and no brick and mortar. It really takes your lifeline.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be brick and mortar though either. Like that's a tough business right now. Brick
Yeah,
and mortar retail. That's
yeah.
a tough business.
Yeah, I come out of rural markets as well, and in a rural setting, everybody like, we want it all. We want. Why don't we have this? Why don't we have this? And then um, the pricing and some of the other benefits of online shopping still pushes themselves. So supporting local sometimes can be tough in those
Yeah.
retail spots. So you're
Hey,
you're
I'm an
at,
Amazon. Look, Amazon really hammered me hard, and I'm still an Amazon customer. It's hard not to be.
yeah,
It's hard not to
yeah.
be.
They no longer do prime change like your T like now you have to pay a little more to get the ads off for your TV. It's still not as many, but if you want no ads, it's like $2 extra a month or four or something other. And then the shipping, how they used to but they gave that to us for so long that we're used to it. And you want that convenience, and it might cost. And so there's a little bit of Starbucks pricing there to where that's only $2.
Yeah,
So it's all, and it's a nickel in my world. It's a nickel here, a dime there. So you don't really see it, and you want to go back to the convenience that you had before of commercial free and free shipping. So those, without them raising their prices, they've effectively raised their prices because
exactly
we're
right.
like you said, yeah, we're so used to it. That's really cool, man. When you're working through all of these cool businesses, and you've done some really awesome things, and it sounds like you had team around you a lot, but there's also that element of um, just some of your founders end up with a little bit of loneliness. And I had a guy at a setting at a restaurant the other day. We were just having an appetizer at the bar, and the guy sitting beside me, this is where our conversation went. He was like, I just sometimes I feel like I don't have anyone to talk to. I run a successful business, but no one gets it. I don't have that thing. But did you experience that? And do you help other founders navigate that?
Yeah, that's exactly the reason why me and my co-host Chris started our podcast.
Yeah.
Um, so entrepreneurs. So usually I get asked, I want to be an entrepreneur. What's your advice? And I'm like, don't do it. And there's a reason, right? So statistically speaking, you're not going to make it.
Right.
9 out of 10 companies don't make it past the first year. It's hard. And then those that do, founders suffer from, um, higher levels of anxiety, divorce. I got a divorce. Higher levels of depression, higher rates of suicide. And most of that comes from two things. One, you think there's nobody else in the world that can understand what's happening to you. You're facing problems that you've never faced before because you're an entrepreneur and they're hitting you sideways for the first time. And there's nobody to talk to. And so that's why we started the podcast. It's like, let's create essentially pick a thing that you can screw up on as a founder, one per episode, dive deep to let people know, hey, this isn't the first time you're coming across this. And also to make it slightly less lonely. Because you can't talk to your employees when you're not going to make payroll.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out, but you can't go, oh my gosh, I'm stressed out about the money in the bank account, because you're introducing chaos into their life that's not fair. You can't talk to your wife about it or your spouse. They didn't sign up for that level of chaos. You sure as heck can't talk to your customers or to your investors if you have them. Who do you talk to? It's really just other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's it. It's lonely, but you don't have to be alone.
Yeah, I use that term, don't suffer in silence, with
Yeah.
my clients. Like,
Yeah.
don't sit in your thoughts, man. I'm a helper. Like, if you storyboard my life, you're gonna be like, oh, you're helping here, you're helping here, you're helping. So I've just found my purpose in just really serving others and helping and being. And I was fortunate enough to find my way into business and entrepreneurship and learning all those things. My background was heavily vested in public safety, and just so I've always been in the people business. And I see so many people that don't take advantage of what you just said, and they will set in their thoughts, and it turns negative and it gets crazy. And sometimes the solution is a phone call away.
Yeah, or just a coffee, or
Yeah,
just go to a meetup, an entrepreneurial meetup. Go talk.
yeah,
Go just sit in a room with other founders and feel the struggle. Right? Watch somebody else struggle for a little bit and go, okay, I'm not alone. There's a lot of every city, every town, every state has a bunch of entrepreneurial meetups. Just go to a couple, and it has this healing effect.
yeah. What are some? I had just a couple other things because you're heavily vested in the founder and exit. So I have kind of two things I wanted to ask you there, but common mistakes founders make when scaling their business and some things that they can do to avoid them. Do you see anything that's repetitive that you're like, hey, don't do this, do this?
Yeah. So I'll try to go through different stages of the company on common mistakes. Common mistake number one when you're starting your company is believing that that product is more important than sales. Very common. That I'm just going to build the perfect product, the field of dreams scenario, build it and they will come. That is not true. It's a myth. It never happens. So common mistake number one, the fix to common mistake number one is, sell before you build. Figure out a way to get people to commit to buying the thing that you're planning on building, before, or go into something that you're selling that you can sell, and then you can build a product. Like the exception to that I've seen work is you're responsible for selling the thing for somebody else, and you're going to start your own business to sell it. That's okay. Sales cures all wounds. It cures everything. It masks over all problems. So you have to value sales. It's icky because now you're a sales guy, and most entrepreneurs don't want to be a sales guy. It's tough. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you are. Period. Then when you get a little bit bigger, the next mistake is usually lack of being able to delegate. So you're the bottleneck to scale because you have to have your hand in everything. Common thing that you hear entrepreneurs say is, I'd delegate, but nobody does it as good as I do. Yeah, that's a founder problem, not a people problem. The third mistake is, once you start scaling, you start to believe that you're Midas, and you start to believe your own press, and your ego gets in the way. And once you start believing your own PR that you're great, that's when Murphy comes and smacks you upside the head. So always be worried about where you're going to fail. Never lose that edge of where you're going to fail. And then the hardest hurdle for me was you scale to 10. It's easy to communicate. You scale to 50. Now you're hiring managers. When you scale to 100, now you have to build leaders of leaders, and
Yeah.
that's difficult because now you're creating, quote, an executive team. I hate the term, but that's what you're building.
Yep.
And the amount of delegation and the amount of trust that is required to do that is is often a bridge too far for most entrepreneurs.
You're right. I see it. Uh, uh, Faces are flashing through my head of people that I know that struggle with that. And your folks, when Anthony's talking about sales here, we're talking about money coming into your business. Sales is
Profitably.
pure.
Profitably.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. From money
Anybody can
coming
sell
in.
free hot dogs, but
Right. That's right. We can get, and then you touch on the sales part, and I teach it in coming out of public safety. I told someone this the other day, Anthony. They were talking to me about that transition between gun, like I was gun toting to more going to work into sales. And I go, I was struggling with, I just didn't want to be labeled a sales guy. I didn't want to, because there's a negative connotation that comes with that. And like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Let's walk you over here and show you the shiner. I didn't want to be that person. And I read in one of the first books that I read, and it got into talking about being a guide and how that you were,
Yeah,
don't look at it as sales, but as a service, and how you were serving your community. And what I was able to do, and folks, if you're struggling with this, I hope this helps, is I started focusing on the outcome of what I was doing and how I was impacting, how I was helping, how I was changing this family's life or this person or whoever, this company, through the products that I was positioning them with. And once you kind of learn your qualifying questions to position the right product with your client, the outcome is happiness, and the outcome is, so when you look at sales, approach sales as a guide and kind of put your Yoda hat on, get your little bitty cane, and just walk them through the path of, and sometimes you're going to find your product doesn't fit for them, and you're going to have to say, hey, I don't really have what you're looking for. You can buy it if you like, but if you can be a guy, if you can guide more, sell less, you're going to find the same amount of outcomes, if not more, in just your commissions, just in your money that ends up in your pocket, and then overall growth of the company. So I think on the sales part that is something that I really enjoy teaching on that side of it. Is
I
just
totally agree. Like, if you're really successful, really crushing it in sales,
yeah,
your product's not a fit for 7 out of 10,
yep,
right? That's really successful. So I always look for, I go into a sales. This is probably the wrong way. You're probably going to be, Jeff, you're probably going to say that's a terrible way of doing it. But I always go into it like trying to qualify them out. Like, all right,
yeah,
I don't think I'm a fit for you. So let's talk about what you're doing and see who I can find for you that might be a fit. Right.
yeah,
That's where my head's at. Like you said, service. How am I going to help you accomplish what you need to do? And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can't help with that.
yeah.
But if
There's
you're
nothing wrong with that.
no, there's
There's
nothing wrong
there,
with that. Okay.
yeah. Because I think what I learned is we take for granted how many people in the world or that are in your area that are actually looking for your product. And if you're not careful, you're trying to sell your product to the wrong people, which gives you a 1-star review, negative this, negative
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And if you can just weed through that and get through the 10 people who, on the backside of the 10 people who don't need your product, is millions who do. But we fight so hard sometimes for the 1 to 2 sales that are right in front of us or right on the phone because it's a slow month and you're trying to go. But um, I think if you can just keep qualifying what you're selling and partnering it and pairing it with the potential buyer, the outcome ultimately is you're going to attract more people because your referrals are going to go up, the buzz is going to happen, all the
Right.
things that need to take place for you to find success. So I think there's something, because you know how it is, man. It's not everybody. You can't help everyone. You want to, but you can't.
Well,
Oh,
I can help them find the right fit.
yeah,
right?
Right. Yeah. I might not help my pocket today, but I'll help you. For the real quick, because we're closing in on our time. Someone's getting when is that person? I always teach this, Anthony, is um, the first day when you start thinking about starting a business, plan your exit. Start and try to approach everything with the exit in mind as you're building and growing. Do you kind of follow that same steps and then layer in some stuff on as we wrap up here? Speak to that person who's sitting in their business. It's like, yeah, I don't have any value here, or I don't have anything to sell. But how do you help folks navigate the exit process?
Yeah. So I don't. I never really subscribed to plan your exit when you start.
Yeah,
That's usually that. So that mentality usually comes from venture capital, who's
got it.
putting money into your business, and what they're really saying is, what's your exit strategy? They're really asking, how am I going to get my money out?
Yeah,
Which is a very fair question. But most entrepreneurs don't start with an exit in mind. They start because they're trying to feed their family,
yeah.
or they're trying to serve a customer, or they think they can solve a problem, right? That's great. That's how I start. It's like I just feel like there's a need here in the market, and I'm just going to go try to fill it. The way to plan for an exit is build a good business. It gives you a lot of options if you're doing that. If you're building a business that's profitable, um, then it's it's a lot easier to sell that business. And so when you're planning for your exit, now you're sitting in your business and you're like, all right, I've been doing this for however long. I'm kind of done. It's probably too. It's like you probably should have started a year ago. The
Yeah.
process of selling. So if you can be an oracle and try to forecast when you think you're going to be done, and start a year and a half or 2 years before that, it means that when you're actually talking to buyers, you're not desperately talking to buyers. You could take it or leave it kind of attitude. It's the right attitude to have. Now, the way you set your business up for sale is have clean books. Your bookkeeper is your best friend. They're making sure that everything's going in the right chart of accounts. You're making sure that there's no revenue aligned. A lion's share of revenue is aligned with one customer. You want revenue diversity. Don't do what I did, right, with Amazon. You want to have diversity when it comes to revenue. And also, ideally, you've built systems that so that the business can operate not necessarily long term without you, but it can operate weeks without you
Yeah.
being there. So what that does is, for an owner coming in, what they're looking at is risk. How risky is this business? Well, the owner doesn't. I don't have to have the owner the owner in order for this business to run. I, if one client leaves, the business isn't going to tank, and the revenue, the books are clean. Therefore, I know I can trust the numbers that I'm buying into. Um, and then you asked me another question. I want to, and I lost it. It was Jeff. I don't want to forget because of an important question. Um, oh my god, I lost it. So there was one piece of that I wanted to answer, but I lost it.
It's just about preparing the owner preparing just the extra having not realizing they have something of value that
Oh, there
maybe
you go.
yep.
So the truth is, uh, there's EBITDA. If for those that don't know, EBITDA is basically profit before you're calculating in interest payments and depreciation, right? So EBITDA is basically your profit margin. That's one number, and usually exits happen on a multiple of your EBITDA. And then there's something called SDE, which is seller's discretionary income, which is EBITDA. It's a mixture of EBITDA and your salary, what you take out of the business. And if those are either one of those are positive numbers, you have a sellable asset.
Yeah.
And it's just a multiple of that. And depending on the industry, it could be a small multiple, like 1 times that, or it could be a large multiple, like 11 times that. So usually, you're gonna if your business is doing over, let's say, $2 million a year in revenue, even $1 million a year in revenue, you want to talk to a broker
Yeah.
at the very least to kind of get a sense of what the value of your business is, and then maybe also take you to market. That's where I come in, but you don't have to. You can also take your business to market on your own if you want to.
You you mentioned it, but that's where you come in. And so, how folks, founders that are starting or that are looking to scale, bring in a new product to where they're already in business, where they've been established. That's one person or one side of your business, and then the exiting side.
Yeah.
So how you touched on it, but how can folks get in touch with you? We'll make sure that we bookmark that. But how can folks get in touch with you so you can help guide them? Because here's what I'll tell you before you. I want to tee you up here. Anthony's going to help you if you're exiting. He's going to help you. Not he's going to charge you, but he's going to make you some money that you otherwise may have left on the table because that's what he does. So don't just be like, well, I'm going to pay him to do that. He's been there and he understands what that exit process looks like. So he's going to help you maximize your exit alongside of you. So keep that in mind. There's no replacement for the expertise of someone who's been there and done that, who's willing to come alongside you as a business owner in whatever phase you're in that he helps. So, how can folks get in touch with you,
Oh,
Anthony?
thank you for that. And you know what? I might not be the right fit broker for them. So I'm happy to chat with them and maybe steer them in the right direction if I'm not. Genuinely happy to do that. The easiest way to get a hold of me is just go to howtofounder.com. That's where my podcast lives. You click on the LinkedIn link that takes you right to my LinkedIn page, and you can just message me right from LinkedIn. It's the absolute best way of getting a hold of me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I went over a little bit from what I told you, but the value you've given us today is absolutely worth about 7 extra minutes of me stealing from you. But no, dude, yeah, I really appreciate your time. I can't thank you enough for all of this value that you've left us today. And I can't wait just to hear the what other folks have to say as they consume and get to know you more. Through our conversation today. So thank you for being with me, brother.
You're too kind. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's great conversation. Happy
Yeah,
to be
man.
here.
Yeah, appreciate you. Those are the easy ones, man. Easy.